Sandbag voting. Ever felt elections were a waste of time? Often the reason we believe elections are a waste of time is that we have the wrong expectations. True Christians vote because they take seriously the call of Jesus to be the salt of the earth, as recorded in Matthew 5:13, when Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men." True Christians also know, because Jesus told us so, that we are fighting a losing battle, but not a losing war. The war will be won by Jesus, but not before his disciples have lost everything. Every election cycle, we the people are promised honesty, prosperity, and safety. In return for our votes, we receive deeper lies, increasing oppression, and court-inflamed turmoil. At every level, the most fundamental of rights, even the right to raise your children and be a family, are being stolen by the government. Consider, it is from the government, the courts, the law enforcers, that every depravity increases against the humble in the land. The devil, yes, the devil, was not bluffing when he offered Jesus all the kingdoms or governments of the world if only Jesus would bow down and worship him. Just as Jesus was sorely tempted, we too, the few humble Christians in the land, while being overwhelmed by authoritarian thievery and vile thoughts of temptations, will be tempted as well. Such onslaughts clearly are more than just normal activities of man, and many are asking themselves exactly what is happening. A flood of spiritual wickedness is sweeping away the right to vote morally and logically. Never a Christian nation. America never was a Christian nation. The United States had many Christians at one time influencing and holding back the flood of wickedness from the government. But the evil waters are rising and will continue to rise until there is no place to hide. If you ever felt that there was a conspiracy happening around you, it is because there is a conspiracy at work. It just is not coming from UFOs influencing world events. It is wickedness in high places that are motivating unrepentant sinners, government officials, public school teachers, entertainment executives, and your friendly governmental bureaucrat to increase wickedness in the land. The fact wickedness is increasing is self-evident in the 2020 presidential election that things are beyond the norm. It really doesn't matter which side you are on, Republican or Democrat. The end result will be an ever-increasing flood of depravity, debt, and destruction. It is either Republicans, which have no backbone to stop the flood of wickedness, or the Democrats, who lust for lawlessness. The end result is always an increasing tide of foolishness. With Democrats, the dam is breached to allow a flood of evil, and with Republicans, the floodgates are opened to allow a more controlled flood of evil. Either way, fast flood or slow flood, the waters of wickedness are rising in the United States. The increasing flood. Everyone is moving away from the destruction in their neighborhood. Those in California moved to Washington State when California first started sinking into governmental chaos and nonsense. Now, everyone sane in Washington State is moving to Idaho or looking for some last haven to sanely live out one's life. Here is the point. Soon, there will be no place to move and hide from Seattle's wanton lawlessness, destruction, and depravity. Indeed, no matter where one runs today, it is extremely difficult to hide from the flood of wickedness in movies, games, and on billboards. Jesus warned us to expect and prepare for this flood. When the dragon saw that he had been hurled to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. The woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle, so that she might fly to the place prepared for her in the desert, where she would be taken care of for a time, times, and half a time out of the serpent's reach. Then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river, to overtake the woman and sweep her away with the torrent. But the earth helped the woman by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. Then the dragon was enraged at the woman and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, those who obey God's commandments and hold the testimony of Jesus. Revelation 12:13-17. Democrat or Republican? The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Ecclesiastes 10:2. Do vote, because the life of the unborn children hang in the balance. Indeed, anyone claiming to be a Christian but votes Democratic should be disfellowshipped and publicly humiliated for supporting the wanton bloodlust of those who support abortion. Anything less is tantamount to voting Nazi, because Hitler provided jobs, good roads, and the Volkswagen, while ignoring the persecution of the Jews. As the New Testament commands, "But now I am writing you that you must not associate with anyone who calls himself a brother, but is sexually immoral or greedy, an idolater or a slanderer, a drunkard or a swindler. With such a man, do not even eat." 1 Corinthians 5:11. Truth be told, at the end of the day, a true disciple of Jesus is neither Republican nor Democrat, because such are looking for a country that is not of this world. In short, there is no such thing as a Christian Republican or a Democrat Christian, because, as the old hymn declares, this world is not our home. To quote Hebrews 11:16, God will be ashamed of anyone claiming to be a Christian while aligning themselves with the Republican or Democratic Party. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. And they admitted that they were aliens and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for He has prepared a city for them. Hebrews 11:13-16. Courage. The Democrats have left the United States no choice but to vote Republican. Just do not be naive. One can only sandbag so long before the floodwaters of sin will sweep away the Republican Party also. Once the sandbag votes become meaningless, all that will be left to do is to proclaim, at the cost of life and freedom, the truth and love of God. The question is, will you have sufficient courage to really pay the cost, to testify on behalf of the Holy God? If you really have surrendered now daily to the will of God, by picking up your cross and hating your own life, you will be blessed with the grace of courage in Jesus to testify boldly on behalf of the goodness of God once the floodwaters have breached the sandbags. If not, you will betray. This message brought to you by www.theoffense.news.